When we look at the debt ceiling, though, I think the news today really comes from Manchin. He's throwing his weight behind McCarthy, saying, you know, we should maybe negotiate, and kind of throwing some shade at the White House. How is that landing for the House Republicans? There's a statement now.
This really gives both House Republicans as well as Senate Republicans a big leg up. Manchin is saying, look, I don't necessarily agree with everything in McCarthy's proposal, but what I do want is to negotiate. I want to come together. And that's something that's really popular with a lot of Americans. When voters talk, when you look at polls, people say they want the two parties to work together. That doesn't necessarily mean that they want the two parties to compromise. They want the party to do whatever their point of view is. But Manchin is doing something, and he's running for re-election here. He is making a point that is both politically helpful for him as well as, for markets, too. They're starting to freak out. And, Manchin is sort of putting a pin in that, saying, look, that there is, we got to move forward with something. And McCarthy has a plan that is moving forward. And that's the only ball game in town right now.
Bloomberg News spent some time on the Hill talking to senators today, Colorado Senator John Hickenlooper among them, earlier today on his view on talks surrounding the debt ceiling. Listen.
We're getting to the point where the historical tradition of waiting till the last minute and creating anxiety and uncertainty, it's worn thin. There's a Republican House and a Democratic Senate. We're going to have to negotiate the budget, but we don't have to hold hostage the default. So I think we can chew gum and walk at the same time.
They might have to do more than that at the same time here by the sounds of things. The Freedom Caucus today is reportedly now asking for additional work requirements for Medicare and food stamps. We know they had already asked for the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, to be revoked. This doesn't sound like something that's fully baked. Does Kevin McCarthy have the votes?
Right now, he doesn't. And so that's even more chaos for markets as they're looking at this and evaluating. Republicans don't agree. Democrats don't agree. Yeah. Republicans, Democrats don't agree with Democrats. So this is really going to be a moving ball going forward and look something like, as you alluded to earlier, this the speaker debate where there's going to be last minute deal making, constantly adding things that ultimately are going to be no-goes in the Senate, and they're going to have to renegotiate this entire package once it gets over on the other side of the building.
But is it even going to make it to the Senate? Why doesn't McCarthy just, for the point of the matter is he wants these 218 to vote for this so he can show Biden, I have my team together, come to the table. Does it even need to be a bill that makes it to the Senate? It's dead on arrival anyway. Shouldn't they just put everything they have in so they can begin negotiations with the White House?
They can. The issue, though, is they're also concerned about moderate Republicans who don't want to vote for some of these things.
They don't want to put their name on it.
They don't want to put their name on it and be unpopular. So that's a really tricky balancing act that McCarthy has to manage here. The other thing, too, is time is not on their side. We're getting reports that tax receipts are coming in lower than expected, which means that the default could be June versus that July through September range that we've been hearing for the past couple months.
Pretty amazing when you consider the idea of these two men, the Speaker and the President, not talking for some 75-plus days now. What is it that will bring them to the table, if not a Republican vote on a budget?
That's probably going to be the thing. I mean, for Biden, he said, look, I want to see some action from you. I'm not negotiating. But that's really going to be a politically untenable position for him going forward, particularly, as Biden needs to look presidential. There's, rumblings that he will announce his campaign at some point here in the future. So this becomes, kind of intertwined with this whole debate as voters are getting their first look at, yet again, candidate Biden.
Yeah, right. And he's starting to meet with some of those donors.
Yes, next week in Washington, he's having a big group of donors. And this is a group that he's kind of left out in the fields, and he's trying to bring them back in their inner circle now.
All right.
Nick, we want to change gears to another big story that we're following today. Janet Yellen making some news, and so is the Biden administration at large. Apparently, an executive order that's forthcoming that would limit investments in China. We've already been limiting investments in China to some extent and blocking technology from China. How much further would this go?
Well, it's a shot across the bow. I mean, it is sort of an extraordinary situation in Washington where the Treasury Secretary can get up and say, hey, we want to put our national security concerns first with China. And everybody sort of goes, woo, like as if that's not a perfectly normal statement that, you would expect this administration to say. But what they are doing is sort of putting meat on the bone of an increased unease about what the U.S. does in terms of investing in the economy of an adversary, and also what we do with our most sensitive technology, so semiconductors, AI, quantum computing. The risk is, are we just going to send this technology to China and allow allow them to essentially piggyback off of U.S. innovation and do something with it to their own ends that would then put the U.S. at a disadvantage.
And Nick, what she said today, I think for Janet Yellen as an economist was almost extraordinary because she said national security interests are more important than economic interests. Take a listen.
National security is of paramount importance in our relationship with China. Even though these policies may have economic impacts, they are driven by straightforward national security considerations, and we will not compromise on these concerns even when they force trade-offs with our economic interests.
One thing she didn't say is she's planning to go to Beijing. We still don't have a date, and it's not confirmed. They're all planning to go,
right?
But no one is actually saying they're going.
Well,
why?
I mean, they never want to give the date of a trip until it's actually, really set in stone, because there could be so many reasons that they would upset or cancel that trip. So I mean, especially when you had Secretary of State Antony Blinken, he was going to go, and then he pulled that down because of the Chinese spy balloon. So you can sort of see that obviously they're going to be waiting here to see how China responds to this speech. It was very interesting. She did say in that speech, national security concerns are paramount, but we also don't want to decouple. Again, one of those sort of seemingly obvious statements. Hey, the Treasury Secretary says that the world's biggest economy doesn't want to decouple with the world's second biggest economy. That's good. The global economy is not going to go down the drain. But again, it appeared to be a bit of an olive branch there. Hey, we don't want to go to economic war with China. We still believe there's room for compromise.
When you start talking about, though, paying the price for national security, essentially, how much more should we be paying? The country's already paying a lot through inflation as a byproduct, right, of this standoff to fund the war in Ukraine. What should Americans be prepared for?
Well, this is another one of those things that's easy to say in a speech and then may get a little more difficult when the rubber actually meets the road. So, we're really going to have to see. They're sort of laying out a broad architecture here for what will guide investment, and I think it's really more of a signal to U.S. companies. Listen, when you plan or think about your investments in China, here are the roadblocks or hurdles you may face from the U.S. government. And in some ways, this is what you've seen sort of with sanctions policy as well toward Russia and to some extent toward China. There's a self-policing element here. So we're not going to tell you specifically what you can and can't do, at least not yet. That may come down the line. But we're going to expect you, U.S. business, to start making those calculations on your own and retrench a little bit from China.
Speaking of decoupling, Emmanuel Macron also said the same thing. And today we have President Biden giving him a call to talk about his recent China trip. Was this the White House giving almost a talking to the French president, given his stance and these interviews he gave following that trip?
Right. I mean, there's a lot of confusion about what President Macron actually meant to say in that trip. He made a comment about Taiwan, essentially saying that, the European Union should not be involved.
Strategic autonomy.
Strategic autonomy should not be involved in the Taiwan conflict. And that was interpreted in some ways as Macron basically saying he's going to leave Taiwan to its own fate. The Elysée has since backtracked very strongly against that. So I think what you're seeing with the Biden-Macron call there is more of a hey, we're on the same page. Don't worry. We're still allied. Here's what we want to do toward Taiwan. The French position, his statement did not represent a significant change in policy. Flip the channel back to regular programming.